Welcome back to ABC General Hospital. Spoilers channel. Today we will dive deep into the explosive events set to Rockport, Charles this Monday, December. Th. The upcoming episode promises a perfect storm of emotional breakdowns, dangerous blackmail schemes, family confrontations, and shadowy intrusions that will leave viewers breathless as the tangled web of relationships and secrets grows ever more complex. Our beloved characters find themselves pushed to their absolute limits, forced to make impossible choices that could forever alter the landscape of their lives. Let us guide you through every shocking moment, every whisper threat, and every heart-wrenching decision that awaits. The drama ignites with Dr. Britt Westbin's devastating downward spiral. A storyline that has been building like a pressure cooker for weeks. At the Brown Dog Bar, Britt has been drowning her sorrows in a sea of alcohol. Each drink a futile attempt to numb the pain of her fractured relationships and professional turmoil. Her confrontation with Jason Morgan reaches a fever pitch when, in her heavily intoxicated state, she issues a daring challenge that hangs heavy in the air between them. "Kiss me," she demands, her words slurred, but her eyes blazing with a mixture of defiance and desperate longing. Jason, ever the stoic protector, recognizes the dangerous territory they're entering. He sees not the confident chief of staff who once ruled General Hospital with an iron fist, but a broken woman teetering on the edge of complete collapse. His refusal isn't born of rejection, but of profound concern. He understands that any intimacy shared in this moment would be poisoned by grief and alcohol, leaving Britt with even deeper regrets. When sobriety returns, the situation escalates catastrophically when Britt retreats to her room above Bobby's, determined to continue her self-destructive binge away from prying eyes. The modest space, once a sanctuary, transforms into the setting for her literal downfall. As she reaches for yet another bottle, her coordination fails her completely. The room spins violently, and in a heart-stopping moment, captured in perfect soap opera fashion, Britt's legs buckle beneath her. She crashes to the floor with a thud that echoes through the thin walls, a wine glass shattering beside her and cutting into her palm, a physical manifestation of her internal bleeding. Jason, who had been lingering downstairs, consumed by worry, hears the unmistakable sound of disaster and bursts through the door to find Britt crumpled on the floor, tears streaming down her face as the alcohol finally strips away every defense mechanism she's built over a lifetime. This moment becomes a crucible for their complicated bond as Britt's walls crumble completely and she finally allows Jason to see the raw, unvarnished truth of her pain. She confesses fears about her career, her isolation, and the haunting legacy of her parents' crimes that she can never outrun. Jason becomes her anchor in the storm, offering a quiet strength that speaks volumes more than any words could convey. Meanwhile, across town, the current Thos organization faces its most insidious threat, yet in the form of Jen Sidwell's meticulously orchestrated blackmail scheme. The wealthy businessman turned criminal mastermind has been playing a long game, and his opening move is nothing short of devastating. Armed with photographic evidence that could destroy Two of Port Charles's most powerful figures. Sid Weller arrives at sunny Corinthus mansion with the confidence of a predator who has cornered his prey. The images in his possession tell a damning story. Laura Collins and Sunny, standing beside her mayoral vehicle with the lifeless body of Professor Henry Hank Alton concealed within the trunk. These aren't blurry, ambiguous shots. They're high-resolution time-stamped photographs that leave no room for interpretation or denial. Sidwell's delivery is cold and precise as he declares, "I have more than enough to put you and the mayor away." His voice dripping with malicious satisfaction. The power dynamic shifts instantly with Sunny finding himself uncharacteristically vulnerable. Forced to listen as Sidwell outlines his demands with ruthless clarity. The black mailer's primary objective remains the waterfront piers that have been the subject of his obsession for months. But his ambitions don't stop there. Sidwell's vision extends to complete control over Port Charles's shipping lanes. And he sees Sunny's criminal empire not as a rival to be eliminated, but as a tool to be co-opted. He demands not just the deed to the piers, but a partnership that would essentially make Sunny his subordinate in the criminal underworld. The veiled threats extend beyond Laura and Sunny, touching on innocent parties like young Ace Casadini, whose safety becomes an unspoken bargaining chip that hangs in the air between them. Sunny's legendary temper simmers beneath the surface as he calculates his limited options, each potential move leading to catastrophic consequences for someone he cares about. The mob boss must weigh his own freedom against Laura's political career, AC's safety, and the stability of his entire organization in a single impossible decision. Laura Collins, meanwhile, carries the crushing weight of this blackmail into her marriage, forcing her to reveal the ugly truth to Kevin Collins in a scene that tests the foundations of their relationship. The normally unflappable psychiatrist reels as his wife confesses her involvement in covering up Dalton's death, a secret she's been harboring while maintaining her duties as mayor. Kevin's immediate instinct is to pursue the legal path, confess everything to the authorities, accept the consequences, and trust in the justice system they'd both served in different capacities. However, Laura's political acumen and maternal instincts create a devastating counter-argument. She explains that any confession would immediately implicate Sunny, destroying the fragile truce that keeps Port Charles from descending into complete chaos. More critically, she reveals Sidwell's subtle but unmistakable threats against Ace, Laura's beloved grandson, making it clear that this isn't just about legal jeopardy, but about protecting the most vulnerable members of their extended family. The conversation becomes a painful exploration of moral compromise, with Laura arguing that sometimes the greater good requires living with personal corruption, while Kevin struggles to accept a reality where justice must be sacrificed for survival. The family drama extends to Carly Curran Spencer, who finds herself navigating the treacherous waters of her brother Lucas Jones's new life choices. Their confrontation at General Hospital becomes a battlefield of old wounds and new boundaries. Lucas, still recovering from the trauma of his past relationships and the near destruction of his family, has found an unexpected connection with Marco Rios, a man whose Mysterious past and present connections set off every protective alarm in Carly's system. When Carly attempts to extend an olive branch, Lucas meets her with a firmness that surprises even himself. He lays down non-negotiable terms. If Carly wants to be part of his life again, she must accept Marco completely without reservation or investigation. The tension thickens as Carly learns more about Marco's troubling connection to Jen Sidwell, the dairyman threatening her ex-husband, Sonny. This revelation creates an impossible triangle of loyalty. Carly wants to protect her brother, but investigating Marco could expose Sonny's blackmail situation and put everyone at greater risk. Lucas's decision to move into Windmere with Marco adds another layer of complexity, placing him directly in the orbit of the Casadini family and their endless intrigues. Carly must promise to keep her suspicions to herself, swallowing her protective instincts in a gesture of faith that clearly costs her dearly. In the midst of these adult crises, younger characters navigate their own dangerous games. Jocelyn Jacks finds herself locked in a bitter confrontation with Jack Brennan over the disappearance of Vaughn, a figure who had become unexpectedly important to her. Brennan, operating with the cold logic of a spy master, reminds Jocelyn that she and Vaughn both violated protocol and his actions were merely enforcing necessary discipline. Jocelyn's passionate defense of Vaughn reveals deeper feelings than she's willing to admit, even to herself. Brennan's warning that she's dangerously close to crossing a line carries the weight of someone who has seen idealistic young agents destroyed by their own emotions. Their exchange becomes a masterclass in power dynamics, with Jocelyn's youthful righteousness crashing against Brennan's experienced ruthless pragmatism. The scene crackles with unspoken threats and the possibility that Jocelyn's involvement with the WSB could cost her everything she holds dear, including her freedom. The episode builds to a breathtaking climax at Carly's mansion, where the familiar creaks and groans of an old house take on terrifying new meaning. As night falls, Carly becomes increasingly aware of sounds that don't belong. Footsteps to deliberate to be random. Shadows moving with purpose. Arming herself with a heavy fireplace poker, she transforms from businesswoman to warrior. Her years in Port Charles teaching her that hesitation can be fatal. The confrontation, when it comes, is electric. Carly lunges at the intruder with lethal intent, only to find herself face to face with Valentine Casadini, whose prison transport escape has been orchestrated with the precision of a military operation. Valentine's appearance isn't random. He's come to Carly because he understands that their mutual enemy, Brennan, requires a united front. Their subsequent strategy session becomes a fascinating dance between two of Port Charles's most formidable minds, each bringing different strengths to the table. Valentine's Casadini resources and international connections complement Carly's local knowledge and street-level influence. Together they begin crafting a counteroffensive that could shift the balance of power in Port Charles, discussing everything from financial warfare to political pressure points that could neutralize Brennan's advantage. The scene ends with them forming an alliance that would have been unthinkable mere months ago, bonded by shared threat and mutual respect for each other's capabilities. As Monday's episode unfolds, these storylines will weave together in unexpected ways, creating a tapestry of conflict that touches every corner of Port Charles. From Brit's vulnerable collapse to Sidwell's criminal chess game, from family fractures to dangerous alliances, each moment builds toward a crescendo that promises to redefine relationships and power structures throughout the city. The careful balance between personal drama and high-stakes intrigue ensures that every viewer will find something to captivate their attention, while the interconnected nature of these plots guarantees that no character remains untouched by the gathering storm. Next, we will learn about the issue that has every fan in Port Charles buzzing with theories and speculation. The mystery surrounding Drew Cain's near-fatal shooting continues to unravel in ways that challenge everything we thought we knew about that fateful night. While Curtis Ashford's shocking confession to ordering a hit on Drew seemed to close the case, new evidence suggests we may have only scratched the surface of a far more complex conspiracy. The pieces simply don't fit together neatly. And as any seasoned soap opera detective knows, when the puzzle looks incomplete, it's because there's always another layer waiting to be exposed. The truth about who actually pulled the trigger may involve a dangerous game of cat and mouse between multiple assassins, each with their own agenda. And Curtis might just be an unwitting pawn in a much larger scheme. The revelation that Curtis Ashford sought out Selena Wu's criminal services to eliminate Drew Cain sent shockwaves through the General Hospital universe. But seasoned viewers immediately sensed that this confession felt more like a red herring than a resolution. Curtis's memory flashback, which dominated the December ND episode, showed him negotiating with the formidable mob matriarch, offering a staggering $1 million for a clean, untraceable hit. However, what viewers witnessed was merely Curtis's recollection, not an objective account of events. The human memory is notoriously unreliable, especially when clouded by guilt, grief, and the immense pressure of knowing you wished someone dead who nearly died. Curtis's flashback may have been incomplete, edited by his own subconscious to protect him from an even more devastating truth, that his order never actually reached completion. The psychological burden of believing you caused someone's death is heavy, but the weight of knowing you tried and failed might be even more torturous, forcing the mind to fill in gaps with the most logical conclusion rather than the actual sequence of events. Consider the timeline at night, which has become increasingly suspicious upon closer examination. Drew's house, typically a quiet sanctuary, apparently became a thorough affair for shadowy figures with murderous intent. The established narrative confirms multiple individuals were present on the property, creating a chaotic overlap of motives and opportunities. What if Selena Wu's professional assassin arrived precisely on schedule only to discover the target was already down? A true professional finding Drew bleeding on the floor would have verified the kill, yet Drew survived. This discrepancy suggests something interrupted the expected chain of events. Perhaps Selena's hitman entered through the back entrance as protocol dictated and found Drew wounded, but alive. Recognizing the signature Work of arrival, the assassin might have withdrawn immediately. Understanding that interfering with another operative's contract could start a dangerous turf war. In the criminal underworld, etiquette often supersedes completion, and a professional knows when to walk away from a compromised scene. The possibility that Curtis Ashford experienced a crisis of conscience and attempted to call off the hit adds another fascinating dimension to this already intricate plot. Imagine Curtis sitting alone in his apartment, the weight of his decision pressing down on him like a physical force. He stares at his phone. Selena's number displayed on the screen, his thumb hovering over the call button. The minutes tick by as he wrestles with the morality of his choice, the faces of his loved ones flashing through his mind. Finally, in a moment of clarity, he makes the call. Selena answers with her characteristic calm, and Curtis's voice cracks as he attempts to cancel the contract. But in her world, a deal is a deal. And cancellations are not merely inconvenient, they're insulting. She might have coolly informed him that the wheels were already in motion, that her associate was en route, and that stopping the operation now would cost him far more than money. This conversation, if it occurred, would represent a critical missing piece that Curtis's guilt-ridden memory has suppressed, protecting him from the knowledge that he tried to save Drew, but failed. Nathan West's assessment that this was a professional job deserves deeper scrutiny, as his observation opens more questions than it answers. A true professional, especially one connected to Selena Wu's organization, would never leave a target breathing. The fact that Drew survived 2 bullets suggests either gross incompetence or a deliberate choice. The shooter might have been interrupted by an unexpected rival, a car pulling into the driveway, a neighbor's dog barking, the sudden illumination of a porch light. However, a seasoned hitman would have accounted for these variables and maintained position until the job was complete. The alternative is more chilling. The shooter never intended to kill Drew, but wanted to send a message to carefully place non-fatal wounds would achieve the desired effect. Drew eliminated as a threat. Curtis believing his order was carried out, and the real mastermind watching from the shadows as everyone played their assigned roles. This theory suggests a puppet master manipulating multiple parties simultaneously. A classic General Hospital storytelling technique that keeps viewers guessing. 4 months. The forensic evidence, had it been properly examined, might tell a story entirely different from the one we're constructing. Ballistics could reveal that the bullets removed from Drew's body didn't match the caliber typically used by Selena's organization. Her hitman favor clean, efficient weaponry that disappears without a trace, perhaps an with custom loaded subsonic rounds. If the slugs were from a .45 or showed amateurish characteristics, irregular rifling, reloaded casings, inconsistent powder burn, it would point to an entirely different perpetrator. Additionally, the entry angles might suggest the shooter was shorter or taller than Selena's usual operative, or that the shots were fired from an awkward position inconsistent with professional training. These details, often glossed over in the rush to find a Suspect could be the key to exonerating Curtis while implicating someone with a more personal vendetta against Drew. The absence of shell casings at the scene might indicate a professional who polices their brass, but it could also mean a nervous amateur who used a revolver, eliminating the need to collect spent cartridges in the heat of the moment. Let's explore the shadowy figures who might have had independent reasons to want Drew Kane's suffering, but not dead. Drew's time in prison created enemies who harbor long, simmering resentments. Perhaps a former inmate, recently released and seeking revenge, tracked Drew to Port Charles. This individual wouldn't have Selena's resources or training, but would possess intimate knowledge of Drew's routines and vulnerabilities. They might have watched the house for days, learning patterns, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Their motive wouldn't be money or power, but pure unadulterated vengeance. Alternatively, someone from Drew's corporate past, perhaps a business rival he defeated through aggressive tactics, might have hired a Q-trade assassin to wound him severely, enough to remove him from the business world permanently. This would explain the amateurish elements. The shooter was competent enough to hit the target, but lacked the cold-blooded efficiency to finish the job. The corporate angle introduces a whole new cast of potential suspects, each with alibis to verify and secrets to uncover. Selena Wu's reaction to the news of Drew's shooting. When she learns Curtis believes her organization was responsible would be telling. She might summon Curtis to her private office above the Savoy. The atmosphere thick with incense and unspoken threats. In her typical measure tone, she would explain that had her man completed the assignment, Drew would be in a body bag, not a hospital bed. She might even produce proof, perhaps a time-stamped photo of her operative at another location, or a recording of Curtis's attempted cancellation call that she kept as insurance. Selena's reputation depends on precision and reliability. A botched job reflects poorly on her entire operation. She would be personally offended by the suggestion that her associate left a witness, and her indignation might actually convince Curtis that he's been played by someone else entirely. This confrontation would not only clear Curtis's conscience, but would redirect suspicion toward the true culprit, setting up the next phase of the investigation. The role of other Port Charles residents in this drama cannot be overlooked. Sonny Corinthos, ever protective of his territory, might have caught wind of Selena's planned hit through his network of informants, unwilling to let another mob figure operate so brazenly in his domain. Sonny could have intervened, sending his own man to ensure Drew survived. This would create a complex triangle of conflicting interests. Curtis wanting Drew dead, Selena arranging it, and Sonny preventing it. The shooter might have been one of Sonny's associates, instructed to wound Drew just enough to get him out of the line of fire without causing permanent damage. This theory explains the professional assessment. Sonny's people are skilled, but also the